why don't we start by, if you could just share a bit about your journey.
I call myself as a passionate beauty seeker. I've worked across 3 companies now, also managing people, learning about people, and also learning about her product.
Anything from a category lens that you could share?
Yeah, of course. So, skincare is an ever-evolving category, right?
But I think what also may be interesting is this is also a category that has so many brands. Like you mentioned, there's Ayurveda, there's K-beauty, there's scientific beauty. There are so many Indian startups in this space.
I don't think so. Being in skincare is easy at all.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Manifestations with Manifest Media. My name is Manasi Narasimhan. I've been a career marketing and communications professional, many years in the private sector and now in the social impact space. The purpose of Marketing Manifestations is to understand the real life experiences of marketing leaders across industries and brands and the pivotal role that marketing and communications as a function plays in driving any business. For today's episode, I have the pleasure of having with me Shweta Dalal, the Director of Marketing for the brand that is very, very familiar to all of us, Nivea, the iconic blue box that many of us have seen and continue to see. Shweta, it's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, and the pleasure is all mine. It's such an honor to talk to you today, and thank you.
Most welcome. So why don't we start by, if you could just share a bit about your journey and not just what you've done, but what have been some experiences that have made you the marketeer and the marketing leader you are today?
Sure. So I call myself as a passionate beauty seeker and a beauty expert because I think I spent the last 18 years of my career in the beauty industry. I worked across 3 companies now. So I started my career with L'Oreal as a management intern, fresh from campus. I did my sales with them, and after having spent a couple of years with L'Oreal, I moved over to HUL, Unilever. Spent over a decade there. Again, very fortunate to work across categories and brands. And then about a year and a half back, I think there was a calling from the world's #1 most trusted brand, Nivea, which you mentioned about the blue tin. And then, I jumped the fence and I came over to Nivea, and I'm loving my journey here. As a marketeer, I think I've spent my career at the intersection of what I call as consumer insights, brand building, and brand growth. And I think through my journey, what I've learned and realized is that it's a lot of working across categories, working across brands, but also managing people, learning about people, and also learning about how product and its development is done. So that's been primarily my journey. What has shaped me truly as a marketer over the course of years is really my bias for action, for empathy. And when I talk about empathy, it's empathy for our consumers, because I think it's really about listening to what they say, and not just what they say, it's also about listening to what they don't say, what they don't end up sharing. So once I've realized that you are really true to that and you're able to uncover that, it's the real joy of marketing then comes out. Yeah.
No, absolutely, and so totally resonate, and always good to talk to someone who's also spent time at Hindustan Unilever. But let's unpack a lot of what you said, and I think very interesting is this bit about consumer insights, and you operate in a category that's extremely high involvement. People are extremely concerned about what they put on their skin. So when you talk about inciting, as you said, what they don't say, sometimes people will say in research what they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
So how have you, over the years, and how do you generate relevant insights? And in an age of digital, there's of course a lot of digital consumer behavior, there's a lot of digital content.
Yep.
So how do you put all of that together to arrive at some insights on skincare?
Yeah, I think skincare as it is as a category is the most interesting and the most evolved category of all. I think there's a lot of action and there's a lot of movement happening in this category. So sometimes the risk is that the consumers overclaim and what they say is not really the truth. So therefore the challenge then becomes equally more difficult because you have to really mine and go deeper, right? And my mentors used to tell me that peel the onion, because what you see on the outside is never what is in the inside. So I think the real joy is when you get to peel the onion and when you get to uncover what they haven't really shared with you. So for me, a couple of things or tricks that I've worked are, one is it's always a blend of qualitative and quantitative. You can never just go blindly and say, I'm going to do a one-of-a-kind study. It's always a combination. So, once you uncover a lot of hypotheses and insights is when you can kind of go and validate it with a quant. So for a product, for example, when you do a product development, you don't go and brief a researcher and say, I want a product like that. I think you need a hypothesis in place to really understand when the consumer uses word to describe, saying it's heavy, it's sticky, it's oily, it's light, it's smelling. Really uncover what they want. So some of these words, when they use, you need to be very careful about picking these up, because they are their description that leads you to your definition of what your product needs to be. Once your hypotheses are validated, is then when you go and do a quantitative 200 sample size test to really then say this is right or wrong, what is the preference of a consumer. So that's one. The other one, I think, is also a context over claim. It's very easy to say when you're sitting in a drawing room or when you're sitting here and ask a consumer, what do you think? He or she may say, oh, I think this, because they may want to please you. But the truth is, you need to actually go in the real context of where they are, their real time context, which is talk to them and meet them at their home. A consumer home visit for me has always been more delightful than sitting in a conference room and having a question, or doing a shopper journey with them. Go on a shopping exercise with them, see how they shop, see how they pick your brand or they don't pick your brand in a cluttered shelf today. I think those are some of the things that has helped me. Doing an ethnograph, which is spending a day with the consumer from the morning to the evening, doing a schedule of the day, which is the real moment of truth for your product. Does she realize or remember your product straight out of a shower, or is she using it when she's actually stepping out to meet somebody? Is it a special occasion use? Those are little tiny things that really, really matter. And like I said, I think language really matters. Some of the cultural context or languages that consumers throw should not be disregarded or treated like, okay, this is her expression, because what I've realized is building cultural relevance is becoming more important day by day. So what glow is called in Hindi, a nikhar, may be very different from a glow what is called in Tamil. And when they use the word in their own language, pick it up and use it in your asset or their communication or the way you're talking to them, because it starts to resonate. So these are some of the things that I would say from an insight mining point of view. And on digital, I think, digital is the new fuel or data, right? It's the new language. And I think digital is really important and has really helped us in mining insights, because what digital has done for us is it's changed the passive truth to actually active response. So what you see when a consumer is actually searching, what she's searching at 2 a.m. tells you the truth of what a consumer behavior is. That there is no lying. She's actually searching about a sanitary napkin when she really needs it, right? So it's the truth. I think when she writes about reviews, honest reviews about her product is a real truth. There is nobody is sitting there, no researcher is sitting there. So she's not pleasing anybody. She's writing an honest truth about how your product performed. So it's very, very useful. Or even when they do blogs, or when they're doing communities, or when they're writing blogs, what they do is they're comparing a product and they see a dope or a meme versus an expensive perfume versus a dupe from Zara, or this product versus that. They're actually writing honest feedback. So these are some of the things that digital has really helped uncover, and these are insights that we can actually use. Also, the other thing digital is actually doing is they're reading behavioral pattern of a consumer. It's not a claim, it's not an overstated claim, it's actually a behavior. So when you see the amount of time they're engaging in your content, the kind of buying behavior that they're showing when they add you to a basket, which is the amount of clicks they do, the amount of time they spend, all these are actually patterns that help you use data now in a much more informed way to really design mixes, products, experiences that work for these consumers. So for me, actually, digital has been a great, great, great unlock in the day and age of marketing.
Yeah, it's amazing how many tools we now have at our disposal.
Yeah.
But if I were to just step back now, you've obviously got a lot of insights about the consumers you work with. But are there any interesting trends that you've seen at a category level, whether it's about sustainability and veganism, or the rise of men's grooming, or youngsters, maybe geographically, are there any parts of India that kind of stand out? Anything from a category lens that you can share?
Yeah, of course. So like I said, skincare is an ever evolving category, right? And I think the last 5 years, and thanks to COVID, the way behavior has changed is amazing. And we look at ourselves like what we used to think and do versus what my daughter thinks today is very different. So and I'll divide this into 3 parts. For me, I think there is a macro trend, which is a global trend. Actually, it's not very India, it's everywhere. And the other one is, I think I would say, geographic, which is where are the pockets of geographies where the growths are really coming from. And then the third one is, of course, there's a lot of counterintuitiveness to this, because sometimes while we believe digitization is the new trend, but there's also a counterintuitiveness that comes and hits us. So if I talk about macro trends, I think it's simple. Skincare is no longer just skin or beauty. It's actually now become health, and it's more beyond health to actually skincare as a system, because our consumers have now started talking the language of micro microbiome. They understand skin health. Look at the awareness about SPF. I mean, people are using sunscreen. It's become a habit. Hydration or moisturization still continues to be the number one space, but now they know the science behind it. So I think consumer literacy is at the top. I think ingredient literacy is at the top. People understand ingredients. I mean, I talk to girls from small towns and they're telling me, oh, this product doesn't have niacinamide. Oh, this has salicylic acid. So they are actually very informed about science. So there is a lot of ingredient literacy that is there. I think the third one is personalization at scale. I think they want to believe that, tell me, what are you going to do different for me? How does it work for me? So that's another big trend that is also everywhere, and I can see it coming through. I think the fourth one I would say is, of course, content. I think no longer are consumers believing in only brand pushed content. They don't want to see ads anymore. They want to see advertorials. They want to see actually advocacy. They want to believe that somebody else has used it, it really works, and therefore I want to see. They want the proof. And now proofs are not just scientific demo proofs. They actually want somebody authentic to tell them that yes, it works, right? And I think the last one, which really amazes me and which I'm loving, is what skincare has actually become a culture. It's a community. So, when you hear words like Korean beauty, J beauty, Ayurveda, Derma, these are actually cultures, because K beauty has become a culture of glow culture. So anything that comes from Korea has to help me glow. It's like a community which has now been built. Or when you say derma care brands, in our head we draw this whole semiotic world which says, oh, derma hai, so it has to be science, it has to be expert, it has to be credible, it has to be doctor. So there's a science, it can be boring, but it has to be expert, it has to work. And then there is this world of Ayurveda which we have built around our head, which means it is safe, but it is naturally derived. It will take longer, but it will work. So I think this is the kind of evolution that I'm seeing overall in the space of skincare from a trend point of view. Yeah. Now just pocketing the geographical bit, I think for me, when I look at India, I think we are in the best space today, because geographically also I think Asia region is the one that now contributes to say about 50% of skincare business, right? Because there was a time when the Western worlds were doing far more progressive and the markets were growing, but now Asia is one of the biggest region. And within Asia, if I double click, I think India is at its lead. I think today India contributes to around about, is ranking among the 9th in the world from an Asia point of view, but I think it's very soon it's going up to say around a third in the ranking. I mean, while most of the global markets are growing at say about 10%, in Asia is at a 14% growth. So that clearly shows that this market is really leading the charts, and I think this is happening on account of course, consumers being much more aware about skincare. They are getting out there, they are learning more. The world is truly global now, so data is no longer limited to only some and few. We are more aware about things. Premiumization is really happening. It's here to stay. We are seeing people from smaller towns, metro, town class 2, town class 3, shopping, wanting to really experiment and try. I think the evolution of retail as a channel is also helping us in a big way, right? I mean, we're no longer looking at only selling in metros. Look at the way brands have evolved from quick commerce, Swiggy, Zepto, Blinkit. You talk about it and it's all there. I saw Meesho and I'm impressed at how Meesho is now servicing small towns. They started with the apparels, and now forget apparels, they sell everything on Meesho. And people from town class less than 1 lakh population are also getting the deliveries within a day. So I think retail is really, really evolved. So these are all the things that has kind of helped.
Changed on.
Yeah.
And you made, again, a couple of very interesting points. I think, the democratization of India, there used to be a time where, the big cities had this, and then, as you said, everything was available abroad. And then when people came back, it was like, oh my God, somebody get us this. But now it's completely...
It's all here.
Yeah, it's all here. And it's available to everyone because of various retail channels and the internet, of course. But I think what also may be interesting is this is also a category that has so many brands. Like you mentioned, there's Ayurveda, there's K-beauty, there's scientific beauty. There are so many Indian startups in this space. Whereas as Nivea, you're obviously backed by some of the best science. You are the global MNC brand. So how has that journey been, even at a very top level, when you're competing with a lot of homegrown startups?
So I think it is really a challenging space, to be very honest. I don't think so being in skincare is easy at all, because number one is with the trends, what we've also seen is brand loyalty is at its weakest. I mean, today, honestly speaking, everybody wants to try everything, right? So it's more about discovering a brand than being aware about a brand today. If I can discover on Instagram 10 brands within a frame of 10 minutes, it's really the game. So consumers are no longer sticking by this old school thoughts that my mother used it, my father used it, I have to use it. it. I'm sorry, no, they're really making the choices, and it's not about brand loyalty anymore. So therefore it is challenging, but I think what works for us in our favor is, number one, I think the key to the game is consistency. Yeah, and I think Nivea's been at the pioneer of doing what they're doing. I think credibility and trust wins you consumers' heart, and I think as a brand, we continue to be the number one trusted brand, sixth year in a row, if I'm not wrong, in the country. So we put a lot of effort, time, our plans, our campaigns, our product are all designed to win consumers' heart and their trust, and I think we are doing really good at that. So trust, credibility, of course, you mentioned R&D. I think our product are top quality. We do not compromise on the product experience with our consumers, and therefore they really value us very, very high when it comes to product performance. And of course, the last one is, while we have legacy, which is what we are known for because we are a very old brand with so much of trust and faith, we also continue to drive cultural relevance. So we continue to engage with the Gen Z and the millennials. We go to places where they are truly there. We talk to them in their language. We identify media platforms where they are engaging and interacting. And this has been our journey. But as you rightly said, the competition is tough. Channels are evolving. Consumer is evolving. I think competition is doing so much more as we speak, and yeah, it keeps us on our feet and our toes all the time.
I can well imagine. But now, if we could get on to, you spoke about the importance of campaigns that build trust and that perhaps think a little about the long term, because it's not just about the here and now. It's about maintaining consistency, about building and maintaining that trust. So, is there any campaign that you can talk through, and sort of what was the objective and how did you go about it?
So, like I said, objective will always be to remain top of mind and continue to build our brand on credibility and trust. So, we have two very distinctly different product offering in our kitty, if I can pick two. So there's a body lotion, which is our blue bottle, which is our top performing and does amazing, one of the most sought after body lotions particularly in the season of winter, right? And on that, we consistently try and make sure that we are top of mind. We are always delivering, of course, top notch product quality, but also I think quotes to the category, which is the best in class moisturization. And then there is the other part of the portfolio, which we call as Nivea Soft, which is meant for our Gen Z millennials. This is the one brand that actually recruits consumers into a Nivea household. They start using these brands when they're teenagers, when they start the first skincare into the household. So therefore, for us, I think it's equally challenging to be resonating with them and be at a place where it's culturally relevant. So very recently, to give you an example, because we don't want to run the risk of being the mother's brand or the mama's brand, because I don't want the consumer to feel like, oh, this doesn't talk to me. We need to resonate. So what we did this time, and we took a punt, is we actually went ahead and participated in one of the culturally most relevant segment, which is upcoming in India today, is music festival. Yeah, and there's this festival that happened in the early January in Bombay, which is called Lollapalooza. It's a global format, but now brought to India as well, which sees a huge amount of consumers, and they come there for 2-3 days in the music festival. They engage, and there's a lot of engagement, but there's also a lot of active listening that happens in this platform. So for the very first time, we decided to participate in this festival as a skincare brand, and I think what we saw was an overwhelming response. I think the kind of content we could generate with the consumers over there, and they found us to be totally relevant with the kind of content we were putting it out there. I mean, our idea was as simple as personalizing our brand for them. The idea was what we call as baddie softy, which is basically these consumers don't want to be defined as who they are. They want to have their own identity expressed, right? So therefore, the baddie softy campaign kind of helped them put together their point of view of what they wanted to see themselves as. And I think this helped us, what we call as personalization at scale. We created content, we engaged with them, they saw us in a very relevant platform at a time and place where they were willing to engage with the brand. So while it may not necessarily give you a short-term sales, but what we truly believe is it has helped us engage with the consumers at the right moment, and that for us helps us bring a lasting impression, which will help us also drive brand equity. So, and also differentiate versus everybody else in the market. Yeah, so that for me was one good experiment we've done this year, and we hope to continue taking this ahead.
It's very interesting to think of a skincare brand at a pop culture event, and I think that's also, which would have been one of my other questions, how have you used events? And it seems counterintuitive, but it's very interesting to say use it to create differentiation, create content, and like you said, you're not thinking about an immediate spike in sales, but you are thinking about recruiting the consumer in, making it known that Nivea is the brand for them and not for...
Yes. I think what happens is generally when you go to an event, people associate with lifestyle or they associate with foods, right? Skincare doesn't intuitively come to you. But the moment you're able to integrate it as a part of the culture. So what we did was music. Since music is a part of India DNA, I think globally music is a part of our DNA now. And I think if you can integrate music into a part of your campaign, so we got them to create music. And when you start doing things like that, brand becomes a part of a content. It's a part of the DNA then. You don't have to force it into the content. So that is what we learned over a period of time, that when you ask these young consumers to force it, they will hate you. They will push you away. But when you integrate it into a part of their life, then they actually engage with you. They love you. So we realized that why don't we become a part of the culture? Yeah, and I think that's how we realized, we tried integrating our content, especially in Lollapalooza. While it doesn't seem intuitive for a skincare brand to be there, but I think when the quality of content is what they seek, it just kind of starts to work together.
Absolutely, and you made a very important point, which is to make the brand part of the conversation.
Yes.
Rather than an intruder which is forced in, which is why, like you said, they don't like advertising because it's like an unwelcome guest.
Yeah.
Whereas here what you've done is integrated into what they came for, which is music and the great. So fabulous stuff, and that's really exciting to hear.
Yeah.
Now, just moving a little further on this whole bit about content creation and the larger digital piece, which is, of course, the current absolute buzzword. But what have been some of your learnings in using digital as part of your media mix?
Yeah. So while content, so again, like I said, digital is I keep saying it's a new fuel and it's a new data, but what also helps us is, when you say personalization, it doesn't necessarily have to be product that are designed for you. Personalization can also be an experience, right? And experiences are what really matters to these consumers these days. So just touching on another campaign that we did this year, it was what we call as make your own resume. Of course, we use the word that the consumers described. It was not resume, but it was called the resume, which is basically, we designed an AI app this time, and we really leveraged the use of AI, which is becoming the next big thing again, where the consumers were allowed to put up their own expression of what is their talent. For them, being a voracious reader is a talent. For them, traveling the world and sharing their view of how they see the world is a talent. Being able to, express something negatively is also a talent. So what we gave them a chance was a platform, which is a platform that we have, which we call as a Nivea Fresh Batch, NSFB as we call it. It's a 6th year when we've been supporting this platform. And on this platform, what we let them do is express their identity with the use of AI to design their resume. And it was really well received by these teenagers and these kids, because I thought it gave them a platform to really express themselves and put themselves out there. And some of these content is what we used in order to kind of felicitate them and acknowledge them. And what we realized that is in this process, I think the moment you start talking to them in a language they talk or in a culturally relevant way, brand becomes a part of the pop culture. Then they start to mention about the brand by themselves. Then you don't have to push it across, right? And that, I think, is the power of digital, like I said. So it became actually a full funnel for us. It became a flywheel. We didn't have to first do an awareness and then a consideration and then a purchase. Actually, it became a flywheel, which is, it made the brand discover. Once the brand was discovered, they went into validating it on social media to say, does it have enough reviews? And then there was a repeat and a purchase and a repeat and a purchase. So it kind of, the full funnel actually worked for us like a flywheel rather than a funnel. The old school philosophy used to be a funnel, right? You drive a consideration, awareness build karo, consideration karo, fir purchase hoega. Now I don't think so there's a funnel anymore. So that's what helped for us. And I think now from a digital point of view, digital is no longer, I think, seen as a media vehicle. I think it is the primary vehicle. Pehle we used to see that digital mein bas campaign bana do and reach kar lete hai. Just reach. A certain reach was done with TV, and then there was an incremental reach which digital used to help us do. But now I don't think so we're using digital anymore as a medium of only media. It's become the primary growth channel. I think if you don't integrate e-commerce as a part of your digital plan, then you're clearly missing the game, right? So it's become fundamentally a key unlock and a lever for all of us brands on digital. I think you can personalize at scale because you're reaching, it's no longer blanket firing and saying I've reached consumer. It's actually becoming very cohort specific. Now you know who you're actually reaching and what kind of audiences have a propensity to buy. You're no longer just building awareness, you're actually building discoverability. Because if your brand is discovered at the right point where she has an intent to buy, then you did your job. So digital is actually helping us do that. So I think a lot of things that we do now in designing our campaigns is basically making sure that one, we are more discoverable. Number two, we are more always on. It's not about one campaign, one impact, ek burst kiya and then we forget about it, right? It has to be always on. Whenever the consumer has an intent to buy you, she should know you. Also, all the content that we build around with our influencers, our advocacy, it's all about building the reviews to make sure that she trusts me and she always knows that if I had to buy a roll-on, Nivea roll-on is a product I must go to. So it's always trying to build in the memory structure consistently throughout, not just 1 month or a one campaign. I think that's been the role of digital for us now.
No, absolutely. You're right. From inciting to sales to content creation, because content creation at mass personalization, all of that, right? And I just loved your example because what you've done is you've actually made consumers your advocates.
Yeah, they
are then,
truly,
selling quote unquote your brand for you, and that's the ultimate dream of a marketer.
Yeah, because eventually their word of mouth or their reviews matters so much. And I was applaud this time because last time, I think last week I was traveling to Pune for some consumer work and I was meeting these young kids from college. And I asked them, like, how do you discover these brands? And they're like, I go on Reddit. I'm like, okay, you guys are on Reddit. And they're like, yeah, ma'am, Reddit it's the new review page. And I was like, so it's like, yeah, even when I go for a movie, I go to Reddit, I read about the movie review there, and then I go and watch a movie. If I have to buy a dress also, I actually read there. I was amazed. And then this is news to me too, right? And this is what I love about this profession of marketing is I'm discovering new things every day. They tell you so many new things every day that I feel like, okay, I need to go and do it on my page too now. Like I need to be there on Reddit and make sure that whenever they think of Nivea, something needs to pop up on that space too. So consumers really care about reviews. They write about things. You don't need to tell them to write. They actually write. If they have had a great experience, they will write. If they have had a terrible, they will still write, which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing, no? And this is my learning for today. Yeah, I didn't know Reddit was so popular. No, great. So now we'll dial back, Shweta, to a couple of things. And you'd said early on, and it is so true, so much of marketing is about people and managing people and teams who we don't have reporting authority over, right? Your agencies, your sales teams, distribution teams, etc. R&D, I'm sure, big in your case for product development and so on. So over the years, what have been the tricks you've learned? How do you manage well without influencing without authority?
I think, like you rightly said, marketing is people management, actually. And I think there's so much that goes behind the mix when you bring it together because it is not just one person's effort. It is the entire collaboration of team that puts it together, whether it's the agency, whether it's the R&D team, whether it's the supply chain team who's working together. So I think for me, I have kept 3-4 fundamentals in place. Number one for me is listen. Active listening. I think if you allow people to talk and if you listen to them, and especially coming from a consumer point of view, I think it really helps you uncover a lot. So active listening is what has helped me in building my relationship with people. That's the first one. I think the number 2 is really celebrating every win and every loss. So I think celebrate big successes as much as you celebrate the losses, because when you don't succeed is also when the biggest learnings come in lives. Mm-hmm. So therefore be vulnerable, acknowledge it with the team that okay, you failed, but that's okay, you learned with them, and move together, because when you build that, you build trust, you build kind of joy of authority, a sense of belongingness, because then you will celebrate the wins bigger, and you will also make sure that you will overcome the difficulties and the failure stronger. So for me, that has been my true mantra. And I think the third one for me is also to make sure that make each and every one of your partners believe that they're equal in the game. I mean, the agency is not seen as an agency partner. They are as much a building block to the mix. So for me, if you treat all of them equally, they will all be, I think, unafraid to come and share their point of view, because you never know when an idea can spark from anyone. And trust me, anyone. I truly believe, because that's my philosophy in my team as well, that I tell them no idea is a bad idea. Don't ever judge your own idea, because I may refrain from telling you that, oh, let's participate in Lola, but probably that would have been the most amazing idea for this year. So I always encourage the team saying, no idea is a stupid idea. Just bring it to the table. We'll decide it collectively later on. So therefore, encourage the team to share as much as possible, and hence treat them all equally. Once you do that, I think you build a circle of trust, and people are wanting to do more. They will want to put in more effort, and then kind of starts to work collaboratively. Yeah, so that's been
absolutely. And I think that's one of the greatest joys of a marketing career, just working with people, getting the best as you said, seeing some of the best ideas coming from the most unlikely sources.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. So this has been such an engaging conversation. But to conclude, Shweta, now you've had obviously so much experience in the beauty and skincare space as a marketer. So if you had to advise someone starting out today, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
So for me, I think the joy of marketing is to be uncomfortable. I think if you are a person who makes peace with being uncomfortable, you are at the right place. I like being uncomfortable. I think the day when I am bored is when I'm very worried, because because for me it needs to keep you going, and therefore people who thrive and do well in any profession is when you're slightly uncomfortable with status quo. So please have the ability to not be afraid of challenging the status quo. That's the first one I would say to anybody who's starting up a career anywhere, actually, not just marketing. The other one is, like I keep saying, I think consumer is at the heart of everything we do. So always and always have an empathy for the consumer. Do not try and push your agenda through to them, because they will push you back in one way or the other sooner or later. So have empathy when you design a mix. Make sure that design a mix, a campaign, a film, or anything. Make sure that you're really having the consumer at the heart of it, because if you are a receiving end, you must know how it feels for you as much as how it feels for them. So empathy is the second one, I would say. And number 3 is always and always be looking out. I think an outward in approach for me has always helped. While I of course like to believe that I am my own competition, but I also believe competition is everywhere. So if something inspires you from a global brand, from a local brand, from a category somewhere outside, always keep an outside in perspective, because that will always keep you ahead. You will know more. Don't just be cocooned by your own category, by your own brand, by your own product. Look around, because learning can come from anywhere in any form, right? And that could probably be an inspiration. And the last one I always say is, copying is absolutely fine, and it's the biggest art of flattery, I believe. But when you copy it, own it, make it your own. Add your own flair, add your own instinct, add your own judgment to it, and copy it with flair, so that you make it ownable and you make it yours. I don't think so bigger brands have had an idea when smaller brands try and copy their strength. But when you copy, don't just blindly just do it. I think that would be some of my pieces of advice for anybody starting their career.
Wonderful. It was so good talking to you. Felt so authentic, so insightful. Thank you so much, Shweta, for this.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and I hope I can help and I can inspire and, of course, motivate a lot more people who are pursuing the career in marketing and otherwise. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.